And welcome to Pete's sisters and nephews that are here today. And welcome to present and past fire service people. It's good to see so many people turn out in uniform. Pete would be very proud of that. This is going to be a relaxed service because Pete was a relaxed sort of guy. He didn't like pomp and ceremony, and so we'll all mumble along and make this a nice warm event for Pete to see him on his way. But it's my name's Stephen Gray. I've known Pete since I was about 3 or 4 years old. We went to the same primary school, we went to secondary school together, and Pete and I were like brothers. He was always there. And for me, I was 7 months younger than him, so he was the big boy. But he was the big boy. He was the big boy because he was invincible. He was tough. He was funny. Nothing fazed him. But underneath all that, like his dad, he was a gentleman. Always a gentleman. I've never heard Pete say a bad word against anyone. And a real inspiration, especially for me growing up, to have this big guy just down the road, who was always fun to be with. So, and there's always funny stories about Pete, so I'll tell you one for a start. And this is Pete to a T. We were at Whitianga. We used to go to the Mellor family and our family holidayed together every Christmas. We would go to Waihi Beach with our caravans and have a holiday there, and the motor camp became a second home there at Waihi Beach, including the snake pit, which Pete's mother called the snake pit because that's where all the bodgies and the widgets went, and they drank beer and they caused fights and things. And that snake pit's still there now, but it's a very upmarket piece of landscape because it's right on the beach. And so we used to have lots of fun, and I've got a photograph of Pete, my brother John and me on the walkway just off the beach when we were probably about 7 or 8 years old. Around the East Cape with caravans, just an amazing time. And I was given a picture the other day of probably about 1965, 66, of us all sitting in the grass, the two families in the grass, in the sun, with the surf in behind. Those were endless summers, and they were endless summers because Pete was there. Family holidays wouldn't have been as much fun without Pete. And of course there was the blisters, Peter's sisters, the big girls, and they would go. Mary particularly would go off to the dances, Mary and Linda, to the dances at the Waihi Beach Hall, which is still there. It's a motor repair garage now, and they were just great days. Summers never ever ended. They just went on forever. It was amazing. But anyway, so talk about Whitianga. We had Pete down at Whitianga once, and Dad had a boat which it was a great boat. It was a great sea boat, and it had a big 200 horse Evinrude on the back, and he'd take us skiing. And my father wasn't a sportsman at all, but he thought the rules were that anyone that was on the skis, you had to get them off. And that was you had to shake them off as hard and fast as you can. So Pete's tough, and he would hang on and hang on and hang on. Anyway, Dad's down, got Pete on the back. I think my brother John was in the boat on watch. I was sitting on the beach with, there's a girl sitting next to me, and she had some friends who had another ski boat zipping up and down the beach. And while I was talking to her, I looked down the beach, down Buffalo Beach, and I saw Dad's boat coming. And it looked like it was moving, and it was moving because Pete's skis were going across the waves. And I looked up and I said, "Oh my God," and the girl looked around and she said, "Jesus Christ!" Anyway, Dad came into the river mouth where the ski lanes were, put the boat into a hard turn. Of course, that's where the skiing speeds up. Pete's on the outside, heading towards the sand. He hits the sand just near where I'm sitting. Skis still on. Skis came off halfway across the beach. He tumbled and rolled and banged and slammed past the Phoenix Palms, ended up in the middle of the road. Still smiling though, still smiling. And Dad was thrilled because he got rid of Pete. So we're going to have a tribute to Pete now, and Sylvia's going to bravely stand up here and give that tribute to her soulmate, Pete. He was soulmate to a lot of people, but Sylvia's special.
Sorry. Before Sylvia stands up, I'd just like to give you a little bit of a safety briefing, please. I'm Lynn, I'm the secretary here, and the big boys at the back have voted me to do the safety briefing. The one likely to keep you safe. You will notice the doors are open and we have 2 side exits in this building. If the siren goes, it may not be a fire in the building. We'll let you know if that's going to happen. But if it is, you evacuate through the fire exits and just gather in the car park. If the fire siren does go off during this part of the service, or when you're in the back, you will see the firefighters at the back and probably some others rushing forward, sauntering forward because they're calm, and they need to understand what kind of emergency it is. Then they will come to their lockers and take their clothes off. So, this is it could be disturbing. So you can choose to turn away, but if you can just stay in your seats so you don't actually get in the way of doing that. So also we are a non-smoking, non-vaping building. You can smoke and vape outside if you choose to. And if you need to check on anything at all, just speak to one of us in uniform and we will be able to help you with any health and safety needs. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. I've done quite a few seminars with my good friend Mike King, and he always starts his with the safety briefing, and he stops as soon as he starts pointing out the doors and said, you know what? If you can't figure out how to get out of this building in a fire, we can afford to lose you.
Sorry, oh God. I'm Pete's wife, Sylvia. Sorry. We met 21 years ago. It's the best thing that happened to me then and now. And I'll tell you how we met. We met on Trade Me. And it cost me $25. But it was for a gold membership that my lovely learned friends at Auckland Hospital ED put me on. And they said, oh, it's for a gold member, so you won't meet any you-know-whats. Anyway, ended up meeting him after meeting a couple of you-know-whats. And I just thought we just hit it off straight away. And we got married 3 years later, and our life has been really good. Great guy, great sense of humour. I know he loved me, and I loved him very much. We had a bit of a mantra between us, honesty, loyalty, trust, and along with that came love. And this all happened so very fast, particularly after Pete supporting me through my journey of cancer. And I just kept looking at him thinking, he looks tired. And lo and behold, he was. My sort of last words with Pete were, I went to see him, he was semi-conscious, and I gave him a hug. I said, hi, it's Sylv here, love you. And he said, don't tell the wife. I said, oh, okay. But that's the kind of relationship we had. We were honest with each other, we laughed a lot. And we had a little cat called Annie, which you'll see inside the page, a little black cat, and he just adored her. She was a rescue, and he named her Annie. I'm going to miss you very, very much. Your children have done you proud. Eric, Christina, Nadine, Tama have done you proud, helping out. Your sisters and friends, God, friends as well. You know, Steve and Denise and Terry Jenner and my friends from St. John and so forth. So please take care, everybody. Look after each other. And thank you for today.
Thanks, Sylvia. It's never easy facing these things. You've done well. Thank you very much for that. We will be very proud. So now we've got one of the listers. Pauline is going to come up and give a eulogy of Pete.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm one of the 4 listers, I'm one of the older ones. Today I'm reading the eulogy on behalf of another one of our older sisters, Linda. Linda lives in Australia and she's quite distraught she couldn't be here today. She has a medical condition that doesn't allow her to fly. So she has fond memories, we all have fond memories of Pete's childhood, and she wanted to share some of these with you. Pete grew up as the only boy with 4 sisters. He was a very happy and mischievous child growing up. When we lived in Papatoi, Peter, who was about 3 or 4 at the time, decided to go out to the garage and climb on top of Dad's workbench and play Superman. He fell and ended up with a concussion and was taken to what was then Princess Mary Hospital. The poor nurses were kept on their toes as he kept disappearing from his bed. He was always found travelling up and down in the lift. They decided to send him home when he was one day caught trying to climb out the window to the park next door. Another one of his antics was one day Peter went missing and we couldn't find him anywhere. The police were called, they were searching, we were searching. He didn't appear until later that night. It transpired that he ripped his shorts and he thought he might get into trouble. We had an orchard on our property at the time, so he decided to hide in the fruit trees. While we were racing around trying to find him, he'd been sitting under trees, watching us, and he'd jump like a monkey from tree to tree. One day, Peter hammered all the vents out of the house, the outside of the house. Mum told him to wait till his father gets home and he'd get into trouble. When Dad came home at 5 that night, Peter had mysteriously disappeared again. I was standing with Mum while she was explaining what had happened. Dad misinterpreted, and I ended up getting the hiding point. I needed to get payback for that one. Peter, growing up, also had a paper lover. He enjoyed making extra money from his sister Linda. If she was going out on a date, he would offer to do her share of the dishes for a fee and would clean her shoes. Depending on how late she was running, the price would increase and he would charge per shoe. Peter was best man at her first wedding. When she arrived back in New Zealand, he had an afro hairstyle. Horrified, she asked him if he could cut some of it off for the wedding. On the day before the wedding, he had it cut back to short back and sides. He cheekily said that he had grown it to see the look on his face. He was always the joker. Peter was a very caring and compassionate brother. And as Linda says, when they first started their service in New Zealand, he used to come on the days off and drive for them and help them put up the tent. When one of the clowns was sick, he would jump in and become the clown. It came naturally to him. And he told her recently that he loved doing it. Many years ago, when he was in the fire brigade, he took time off and flew across to Australia and appeared at her bedside in hospital. He cooked meals for her family, stayed by her bed, all day for 5 days while she was in intensive care. When Pete was told he had cancer, he asked Linda if he thought Mum and Dad would have been proud of him being a frontline worker in the fire brigade. She said to him, Pete, Mum and Dad were always proud of you, and we, your sisters, are proud of you too. We all have great memories growing up together in a very happy home. Mum and Dad worked hard. We were very fortunate to be taken regularly to the movies and to go on lots of holidays in our caravan. Peter was so deeply loved. He may be gone, but he'll never be forgotten. I speak for my sisters when we say we love you, Peter, and you remain forever in our hearts. Thank you.
Thanks, Pauline. It's especially lovely that it's been written by Linda, who is quite distraught that she can't be here for us today, because the mothers do stick together. Another story. Many years ago, when Pete and I were probably 10, 11 years old, Mary took us to the Central Picture Theatre to the movies. And we thought, this is great. Going to the movies, and we went to see Easy Rider. And when we got out of the movie, I can distinctly remember Mary turning to Pete and I and saying, that movie was far too deep for you guys. We knew what it was about. Just another one of those happy times we had together. It was great. So now we're going to have a tribute from Pete's dear friends, the Jenners. The whole Jenner family has grown up knowing Pete, and they're going to come forward and give a beautiful tribute to Pete as a really close and loving friend.
Good morning. This is going to be a bit harder than I thought. First of all, thank you to everybody being here. Lovely to see so many firefighters from so many years ago here today. And of course, I'd like to acknowledge a very big thank you to the Waiapa Fire Brigade for hosting this today. Peter asked me several weeks ago if at all possible he'd be able to have his funeral service here at Waiapa. And I said I'll do my best. So Lynn and all the others, thank you so much. People will be so happy with this. Okay, so good morning everybody. As some of you know, I'm Terry. This is my wife Denise, my eldest daughter Ashley, second eldest Courtney, one of my twins Lauren, and Lauren's twin sister Brooke unfortunately is in England, so couldn't be with us today, but it's lovely to have the family here. It's still your fault, Colby. Mike and his wife, Mike Cobb and his wife introduced me and Denise many years ago, and look what happened. Your fault, Colby. For those who don't know me, I'm Terry, and I had the privilege of calling Peter my friend for over 50 years. Peter was already a full-time firefighter when I joined the New Zealand Fire Service in 1976. Yes, I know that was a long time ago. And little did I know then that I was beginning a friendship that would span half a century. Over the years, Peter and I shared far more than just a career. We were active members of the Southern Command Sports and Social Club, spending many hours together playing volleyball, indoor cricket, basketball, and a variety of other sports. There was always plenty of competition, plenty of laughs as you can imagine, and friendships that would last a lifetime. In the early 1980s, Denise and I moved out here to Waiapa. Peter and his family were already living nearby in Clark's Beach. Following a house fire in the area, a community meeting was held which led to the formation of this fire station here, and Peter and I, along with a couple of other full-time firefighters who lived locally, became involved right from the very beginning. Peter was passionate about helping others and was always willing to share his knowledge and experience. Together with Karen, who was also an active member of the brigade. They helped build not just a fire force, but a stronger community. In fact, while they were attending training nights, the two of them obviously coming here and having a young family, Denise often found herself babysitting the Mellor children. Looking back now, it's amazing how intertwined our families had become. A few years later, my career took my family, Denise and two of the daughters at that stage, down to Tauranga. Just prior to that, Peter and his family had also made Tauranga their home, and our friendship simply picked up from where it had left off. Then life became a little bit more interesting. 2 years later, we welcomed twin daughters to our family, twin 1 and twin 2 up there. Suddenly we had 4 girls under the age of 5 and no family support nearby. 4 daughters, who would have picked? But as was so often the case, Peter and his family came to our rescue. They became a second family to our girls. They babysat, they supported us, and shared countless family moments. Many weekends spent together with 4 adults and 4 little girls, heading off on adventure, walking around Mount Maunganui or up Mount Maunganui. You guys have Peter, the heaviest child. Up Mount Maunganui, visiting local parks or simply relaxing together at either the Mellor's home or at our homes. When I look back at those years, what stands out isn't just the places we went or the things we did. It's the generosity, kindness and friendship that Peter and his family showed my family. They were there when we needed them, never because they had to be, but because that's simply who they were. Then later, when Sylvia became a big part of Peter's life, she quickly became an important part of our families as well. For over 20 years, she brought happiness, companionship and love to Peter. It's so lovely to see. Peter was a firefighter, a community man, a husband, a father, a grandfather and a friend. To our family, he was someone whose friendship enriched our lives. When Peter received the news that his wife would likely be shorter than he had hoped, I expected, as most people would, that there would be fear, anger and uncertainty. Instead, Peter faced it with a remarkable calm and acceptance. In true Peter fashion, he took it in his stride, focused on what mattered most, and continued to live his life with dignity and quiet strength, making his typical Peter jokes along the way. I remember one of the visits, I'm just going to digress about one of the visits, and he said to Denise and myself, he said, "Holy hell," he said, "he come into this life with no hair, no teeth, and a nappy." And he said, "Look at me, no hair, nearly no teeth, and a bloody nappy." that was Peter. To witness that courage firsthand was something that truly blew me away and something I will never forget. 50 years of friendship is a rare gift. I will always be grateful for the memories we shared, the laughter we enjoyed, and the unwavering friendship that Peter gave so freely. Rest easy, my friend. Thank you for 50 years of friendship and great memories. You will always hold a special place in our hearts. Now Ashley will speak on behalf of the girls.
Peter, Hot Pete, and Luigi, as we most commonly knew him, was such a special figure in our lives, a constant in our earliest memories and adventures. We'll remember in this most his mischief, his crazy jokes, leaning half out the window of his concrete truck when we drove by him in Tauranga, and the phone calls when we were little when he'd answer with a gruff, "It's in the wedge," in that unmistakable husky voice that always made us laugh. Courtney and I actually asked him recently, "Hey Pete, where did Luigi actually come from?" And lying in his bed, he perked up and said, "Well, I just decided talking like this." Even in these later moments, he was still his jovial himself and reminded us that he was the exact same Luigi as he'd always been. Some of our happiest childhood memories have Pete woven right through them. The adventures, the laughter, the stories, the lessons, and all the little moments that seemed ordinary at the time, but have become some of the memories we cherish most. He was like a second dad to us. He had a way of making every outing feel like an adventure, and every visit feel special. Looking back, we're so grateful for the time we shared, the fun we had, and the love that surrounded us throughout those years. Luigi made us an extension of his own family. We will always be thankful for this. We'll cherish the adventures we shared up Mount Maunganui, the competitive races at Memorial Park and the obstacle course, the life lessons he taught us, and the time he gave to loving us. As we grew older, we welcomed Sylvia into our lives, and their loving care for us grew as multiplied. I'm sorry, Sylvia, we're not going to We now realise how much of a help and support Pete was to Mum and Dad, especially in those early days, as Dan mentioned, and we just want to say thank you. We'll miss you, Luigi. Sky just got one mischievous soundbite.
Thanks, guys. I know that Pete really treasured his relationship with Terry and the family, having started out 50 years ago in the fire service. Pete's driving career started with me. We were about 10 years old, and my dad had a little bit of land up Pointview Drive, and he had an old Comet truck, which he used in the building business with Ted, Pete's father and Dad used to work out of. Anyway, in those days, they didn't worry about health and safety too much, and Pete and I decided we were going to drive the truck around the paddock, which Dad was quite happy about, but we weren't tall enough to reach the pedals and steer at the same time. So I did the pedals and Pete did the steering. So he became a really good driver after that. So now I'm going to welcome Nadine, and you're going to give family tributes. Thanks, Nadine.
Hello everyone. Right. You'll be telling me, come on girl, get me done. So I'm going to talk on behalf of the kids. Jimmy, Chrissy, Eric, and me. The first night I met Pete, I locked my keys in the house twice, and he had to jump through the window and probably thought, what the hell is this girl doing, with this new partner. But he joked about it, and he laughed about it, and that was him. We all know that. He's treated me like a daughter since the beginning. And only really recently I started calling him Dad with the permission of the other kids. Because he was 10 years. There's a few people I actually want to acknowledge that are not here, but who are super, super important to him and his story. The first is Chrissy and Greg, Lily and Miles, who are in Canada. And Karen also, who is in Canada, and supporting them. He's been a great support for us the last couple of weeks. Jimmy and Corbin, who are in Aussie, and Chantal, who is Eric's wife, who is in Aussie as well. I wore a Pink Floyd t-shirt for Pete because he always wore band t-shirts and he loved music. As you could tell from the Metallica when he walked in. That was him. Every day with his shorts, no shoes and a band t-shirt. That was Pete. But he was this really special, really special person. Really caring person, and I also really need to acknowledge Eric. You were with him the whole time, and it wouldn't be anyone else. You made him really proud. You made us really proud. Okay? You always did. Always. And you were with him right to the end, and you made that promise, and you did it. Okay? And the last thing he heard was from Mum saying, "Hey Pete, it's so," and then that was it. And that's what he would have wanted. He wasn't a big drama guy, he wasn't a big, flashy guy, but he was one of the best, and that shows here. And I get a lot of respect for everyone, the Jenners, Stephen Graham, Mum. I made a promise to him. I will look up for you, but I promise that I'll do that. I promise I'll do that. Just listen, yeah. Just listen, and love you very much. Thank you everyone for your support. Thank you to the sisters for your support and your care. Everyone that visited, supported him, and yeah, he drove right to the end. And right to the end of that day. He didn't want anyone to be sad. That was not the person he was. And thank you to my husband, Carmen, and Michelle, my mother-in-law, for your support. Everyone, thank you so much.
Kia ora. Come Ringa ringa, wakia, wai wai, ahia, wakina, waki, wa, kamate, mate kaura, kamate, mate kaura, tenete, mata, huri, hurunana, taki, wakafi, titera, hupana, hupana, hupana.
Thanks, Nadine and Tama. It was really moving. And I'm sure that Pete's heart would be very warm if he would see what's just happened. Another story about Pete. It involves the fire station. So we were young fellas, and Pete might be his first car after just about wrecking Mum's helmet in. He had a little 1200cc Toyota Corolla when Toyotas were just on the road. And we'd been to the beach. I think it was me and Pete, I think Vince standing down the back there was in the car. And I think I'd been with brother Rory as well. And we were driving down Great South Road heading back to Pamatoi from Maraetai in Mandariba. And we pulled up to the lights where the clock is, and a Chrysler Valiant came roaring up behind us at speed and hit the brakes and slid up behind us. And me being me, I turned around and mouthed something to the guy, which I think he took offence to. Because next thing, the driver's out of the car, and we all locked the doors, and he's trying to knock the door handles off Pete's little Toyota Corolla. Anyway, Pete slipped the car into gear and turned left, shot off. And we were heading down, I can't remember the name of the road, but we were heading down and we were going to turn right into Russell Road in Mandariba. And it might be Weymouth Road. And next thing, this Valiant's coming up behind us again. Holy smoke! Pete's driving this little car like it was like he'd stolen it. And we came up to the Russell Road intersection, and a couple in a brand new Cortina had just pulled up at the intersection. Pete being a really good driver, and he was a good driver, whipped round in behind the Cortina, cut the corner, whipped round behind the Cortina into Russell Road. The Valiant tried to do the same thing and didn't quite make it, and T-boned this Cortina. big time. Oh my God, you should have heard the language inside our car. Holy smoke. And then the guy backed off and carried on chasing us with half his front of the Valiant hanging off. Oh boy, now we knew that we were in real trouble. The first guy, he's going to ram us off the road. So Pete's wringing the neck off this poor little Toyota Corolla. We get into Dalgety Drive and this Valiant's catching us up big time. And in those days, there was nothing other than Dalgety Drive. There were no factories there at the time. And we turned into the hard right-hand corner in Dalgety. We got around, the Valiant didn't. The last we saw of the Valiant, it was in sideways, and then in the grass, it was spinning all around the grass. But we still didn't believe that he wouldn't get back on the road and chase again. So straight back to the Pavatay fire station, parked around the back, rushed inside and grabbed a hold of fire axes, just in case the guy hit us. And Pete was a bit pissed with me that day because I mouthed off the guy. So now we've got open mic, and anyone that would like to come up, even a small little tribute to Pete, if you can come up. Oh, here comes Look, I don't want to know, but this is my brother.
G'day guys. Stephen and me grew up with Pete from the time we were really, really young. And in my life, if I look back, I think Pete was the first clown that I ever met. He was a complete idiot. And I can remember, the event fully when he broke the bench on the toilet. And I can also remember that he got in deep trouble that he cracked the toilet in half, and his people that was sitting on this half toilet was going to get in trouble. But I remember one particular incident, we were in the Corolla, and someone else was driving, I think it was John Glenn, and we were cruising down the motorway at 40 mile an hour, which was flat out, and Pete was in the back, and I was up in front, and I think the guy called Terry Boyle was in the car. Anyway, next thing I was like, where's Pete? And he's on the roof. He used to climb out of the car on one side, across the roof and get back on the other side. And he was also well known on the little, what's the Honda, 125 Honda motorbike. And he was well known for riding like Batman. So what he'd do is he'd hang on to handlebars, he'd stand on one leg and have the other leg up the back, so he looked like Batman, and scream on the motorway. So he was just one hell of a lot of fun. And one of the main instances I remember is that he built a still and we were making ginger beer. And anyway, we were up at Old Pavatay on Friday night that all the boys used to hang up there. And I think it was Linda or Janet, I can't remember. Someone came up and said, God, you better get home, that's still blowing up. And he picked to me and his first reaction was, hey, can I stay at your bus? So Stephen and me and Pete, right from the time we were primary school, right through to the time we were teenagers and went our own way in marriage life, we had one hell of a lot of fun. Camping with the Mellors and the caravans, Waihi Beach. He was a magic person and he was just full of laughs. Great guy. Thank you. Thanks, John.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. My name's Mellor. I'm still currently in the fire service and still at Red Watch, which was our watch at Manukau years ago. It's so good to see nearly our whole watch from back then here today. It's amazing and a great tribute to a great guy. We spent many years, me and Pete both firemen. We were still firemen back then before the PC bullshit took over. I don't know if Pete ever alluded what PC stood for because he was not that sort of guy. But many happy memories. Pauline, you reminded me of a little story which I sort of forgotten about. Back at Manukau, Pete, the kids had come into the station, we'd be on duty obviously, coming to sort of catch up with the family, and of course, talking about Pete being a monkey jumping around in the trees. As soon as the kids had all come in, they'd disappear, and we'd be looking out, oh, where are the kids? Oh, well, Jimmy would be at the top of the tower, walking around the very top of the tower. Eric would be climbing up the outside of the tower trying to catch up with him because he didn't want to be outdone by his brother. And then, of course, Christina, who was the youngest, she'd be following close behind, not being outdone by her two brothers. So that reminded me so much of, it was the boss used to say at the time, where are those bloody Mellor kids? Yeah, sure enough, just look at the tower, they'd be up the tower. We had a lot of jobs back then, as we still do now, but back then it was a different environment from what it is now. One of the jobs we were at that probably a few of our guys that are here today may have been at, we had a good large fire in Otahu at the coal distributors building. And it was a bloody good fire. Me and Pete were in the back of our pump at the time, or the ET, whichever one. But we were wearing breathing apparatus, in amongst the smoke, and one of the officers, we were both firemen, one of the officers came in, actually there was a prior one, our divisional officer, wasn't Frank, it was Raddat, very relevant, come walking through the smoke with his torch, no BA, checked on both of us, me and Peter wearing our masks. He said, you guys alright? Yes, Mr. Radwan, yeah. Off he went, and I thought, bloody hell. In smoke, you could only see when he came right up close. Anyway, another officer came in and tried to get us to do another task. And Pete grabbed me, and I'll never forget it, grabbed me and pulled both of us back into the smoke. The officer's trying to get in. Eugene, who are you? Who are they? And we just disappeared back in the smoke, being the cunning bugger he was. And that officer, he tried to follow us into the building as much as he could, and all I remember of him was down on his hands and knees, coughing and spluttering because he didn't have BA on. And Pete grabbing me and saying, come on, Cole, let's get out of the way. We're not going to do anything else, we'll stay in the smoke. But Pete, one other little thing that I never found out, why we called him the dog, but I guess one of the reasons was he always had to have a choker chain and be on a leash, because he used to go off, and he was just a character, and love him to bits. We sort of lost touch over the last number of years. But Terry and the Jenner family always kept in touch, and if they did catch up, Terry would always tell me what was going on. Thank you, Pete. Again, as any of us here today from the fire service, we looked after each other, and we kept each other safe in fires. That's why we're still here today. Thank you for your service with us back in the good old days of the Auckland Fire Brigade, the New Zealand Fire Service, and I'll leave it at that. But thanks very much. Thanks for the chance to speak. Rest in peace, my good mate. We'll never forget you. Thank you.
Just a few short words. I'm Andrew Holt from Firth Industries. Just want to acknowledge Pete's contribution in the concrete industry, and there's a few of us representatives here. He was up at Albany. He's built half of the North Shore. He's batched under concrete for them. Big thing. Sharing in that humour that we have. And sorry from the Albany guys. It's just a bit of a long way for them to get down here. They would love to be here as well. But I just remember a notice up in the Albany office, it might actually still be there, which said, For Pete's sake, who the heck is Pete? So, yeah, we wish, Pete, we wish you all the best as you go to see your own fellow St. Peter and onwards. Thank you.
It's funny, the older you get, the more your paths seem to cross and things crop up, and one's just cropped up for me just then when it was mentioned about the fire at Coal Distributors in Otahu. And I can remember Dad telling me about that place because his mate, Barry Nunny, used to run it. And Barry had the guy on the tractor, was always coming in Barry's office and saying, "Oh boss," no matter what, Barry was on the phone or talking to someone. So Barry said to the guy, "Look, listen, Tama, the next time you come to my office, you stand at the door and you wait until I wave you in." Oh, okay. So the next time Tama came to the office door, Barry was on the phone, yanking away, and he was on the phone for quite a while, and eventually he said to Tama, "Okay, Tama, come on, what is it?" "Oh, I just thought I'd tell you the lunchroom's on fire." Yeah, so is everyone comfortable that anyone wants to say anything for Pete? Okay. So now's the time for the committal. A little something here to read. God of all mercies, we do not ask you to take away our pain, but to help us bear it. We do not ask you to forget, but to help remember without despair. We do not ask you for answers to all our questions, but for faith in your wisdom and love. Give us courage to face each day, new day. Give us patience with ourselves and with others. Give us peace which exceeds our understanding. And we ask this for Pete as well, that he now is lying at peace, that his journey, his hard work is now at an end. And now we trust that he's in the loving arms of God and with Ted and Joan. Amen. So now we're going to have the last call, and I think we should all stand for this.
There's a lady shore, all it glitters